Hello and welcome to this episode of the Gene Keys Exploration. My name is Shelly Szigli and I am a Gene Keys guide. I'm excited to be sharing with you an exploration of each of the gene keys, starting from the first gene key, moving our way all the way through to the 64th gene key. Disclaimer, these episodes are really just about sitting with the energy of the gene keys and literally, at times, reading from Richard Rudd's book. The gene keys are so vast and complex, and as a guide, I don't remember much of the information, so we're going to be exploring these gene keys together. You can find my work at www.genekeyrecordkeeper.com. And other than that, I just hope you enjoy the show and enjoy this exploration. Please feel free to share it, leave us a review, and tell us how this exploration was for you. Hello and welcome to the daily exploration of the gene keys. Today we are focusing on the 6th gene key, and I am Shelly Szigli. I am the one who will be guiding you through this journey. You are actually coming with me on a journey through the 6th gene key. The gene keys are a system. They're a transmission of 64 different keys, which are all related to the human genetic coding. Now, I don't know too much about how they connect and how they relate, but I do know the 64 gene keys are psychological, mental, and emotional aspects. They highlight that realm of the human makeup. So my job as a gene key guide isn't to be an expert for you. I am not an expert to teach you, to tell you all about, to recite, really deep information that's going to blow your mind. However, I am here to guide you through the 6th gene key. And I have open the Gene Keys Embracing Your Higher Purpose book, which you can buy on Amazon, or you can go to www.genekeys.com, and you can also find all of Richard's work on the gene keys and the different courses that he offers. And so the 6th gene key is called the path to peace. And the shadow is conflict, the gift is diplomacy, and the Siddhi is peace. So the shadow of conflict, right? This is something, like all the shadows, we're all very aware of in our world, right? The personal conflict, the conflict in our relationships, in our communities, in the world as a whole, in the environment. There's conflict everywhere. But I'm going to read from the book because Richard always has lots of beautiful and really thought-provoking information to share on these concepts. So right at the beginning, at the top of the page, underneath the 6th shadow, conflict is the battle of the sexes. I'm going to read straight from the book. The 6th shadow of conflict is the single most influential gene key in regard to the issue of human communication. At its highest potential, the 6th gene key is the archetype of peace on earth, whilst at the lowest potential, it is the root cause of all human conflict. This conflict stems from the human emotional system and our inability to handle the voltage of extreme emotional states. Conflict breaks out whenever 2 or more people agree to identify with their emotional state. As long as you surrender your will to the emotional system, then you will be trapped by its volatile nature. Now, this is interesting because today I fell into my emotional state because of not feeling well for the past few days and my children not feeling well. So just being, overrun and feeling like I have nothing to draw from. My emotional state gained control. Straight up, I gave it control, not it gained control. It didn't pull me in and suck me in. I let it control me. And there were a few moments throughout my day today where conflict was huge and conflict was up. And it's such a strange thing, because even as it was happening and occurring, because the pattern is so strong, it seems right in the moment. So this is the interesting thing about conflict. And then our brain can come in and justify, rationalize as to why that conflict was appropriate and why we're right and we should be heard, we should be seen, all of the above. So just to be transparent with you, reading this, as a Gene Key guide, I am not in any way, shape, or form professing that I have this shadow under control, right? I don't think very many of us actually do have it 100% in control. So the sixth shadow can be interpreted individually through relationships or collectively through communities. At an individual level, the shadow manifests through the emotional state. If you have ever been emotionally repressed through shame, guilt, or abuse, the entire culture within your being has been disturbed. Likewise, if you are utterly ruled by your emotions, there can be no sense of harmony inside of you. It is well known how much your emotional state influences your biological health. If you are stressed emotionally, your body will suffer. Emotional problems are the greatest cause of illness on our planet. Right. Yes, it is. The biofeedback loop between these two shadows, what are they talking about? The 36th shadow. Right. The 36th shadow makes you nervous, feeding the 6th shadow, which responds through making you behave defensively. Likewise, your own defensiveness makes other people behave in a nervous manner around you. Okay, so what he's talking about there, every gene key has a programming partner, and the 6th gene key has a programming partner, which is the 36th gene key. So these two will feed off each other. And this 36th shadow is turbulence, right? So turbulence creates conflict. So whenever there's that inner emotional instability inwards, it projects outwards in conflict, in stress, right? It is really important, I feel like, to touch on this emotional instability, because it is something that people work really hard not to show their emotions or to try to appear like they have it together. And oftentimes the body doesn't lie. So when the body's unwell, unbalanced, and the body isn't behaving in the way it should be, it is almost always due to emotional instability. And a lot of people don't like to hear this. They like to think they have themselves in check. But that's the ego. The ego says, no, you're good, you're cool, you got everything together, right? Like, it's good, we're good. But if the body is unbalanced, there's things that we need to check. There's things that we need to look at. And believe you me, it is not an easy process. But this is why we go through something like the Gene Key journey, so that we can begin to become more familiar with the shadow parts of ourselves. So the 6th shadow is about maintaining boundaries and borders. It is about who is included and who is excluded, and its entire basis is defense. The 6th shadow causes you to believe that you have to defend yourself from danger. You can see this as both at an individual level and a national level. Your emotional defense strategies are primarily laid down during your second 7-year cycle, from the age 7 until 14, as you navigate puberty. An enormous amount of the life energy is tied up into protecting ourselves from the volatile emotional situations we felt as children. Unless we enter some deep process of deconditioning, we will continue to carry these defenses throughout our entire adult lives. In the same way, on a national level, we invest the majority of our energy into defense. The sixth shadow is the reason we cannot create world peace. Until such a time as human beings move through an emotional revolution at an individual level and find peace in our relationships, this shadow cannot be transcended. Ding, ding, ding. If I could just take a moment here and ding, 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 ding. Richard, ding, 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 ding. Okay. So Richard, hit the nail on the head. This is the biggest thing that I've been professing. Everybody who sees through this is professing and teaching the same thing. The work to change the world has to start at the individual level. It has to start inside of ourselves, inside of our heart, inside of our soul, inside of our knowing, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. We have to start there. And not just start there. We have to become masterful in our own essence, in our own inner awareness, before we can effectively translate it outwards. And so many of us, we want to go out and do, so we avoid, right? The answers, it has to start in here. And he's saying this, for the shadow of conflict to go away, for humanity to transcend this, it first has to start on the individual level. So for you listening to this, right? You doing this work, you beginning a journey, you beginning to look at your own gene keys, your own profile, your own inner workings, your own gifts, all of these things, you are doing exactly what is necessary to shift the planet. So do not be mistaken of the power of your inner work. It is the most powerful thing. So the repressive nature of the sixth shadow is over-attentive. The repressive nature of the sixth shadow is concerned with maintaining peace between people, regardless of the cost. This pattern is based entirely upon the fear and means that people will totally compromise themselves in order to maintain control of their emotional environment. Oh boy, this is something that I have had to work on massively. This is the defense pattern of over-attentiveness, and these are the people pleasers. Yeah, I've been a people pleaser. I still have to watch that sometimes. Sometimes I want to fix things, so I'm really getting this. The repressive nature will sweep conflict under the carpet by adopting any behavior that will keep it at bay. The problem here is that unless conflict is dealt with transparently, it tends to eventually explode. Yes, it does. It will not actually go away. The over-attentive nature is at its core deeply false, which means that it will invoke unconscious distrust in others. Over-attentive nature also tends to draw tactless natures to them, resulting in some spectacularly dysfunctional relationships and family dynamics. Spectacularly dysfunctional. That is beautiful. When these people finally develop the courage to face conflict, they realize it is never as bad as they had feared. This is so true. And again, I've seen this with clients, but I mostly, when I'm reading this, I resonate this for myself. The fear of the conflict, the fear of what will happen if I don't fix, if I don't band-aid, if I don't control. What if everything blows up? What if I can't control it, right? That fear can be so overwhelming. And like he said, when you learn to face it and you learn to let it just blow up and see what happens, it rarely is worse than you thought it would be or could imagine it to be. In fact, whatever the imagined illusion was that was causing one to over-attend to the situation or try to band-aid it or fix it or whatever is almost always way more extreme, way bigger than the actual conflict in itself, right? So the reactive nature, tactless. The other side of the sixth shadow is unable to contain its emotions at all. Lack of emotional tact and timing betrays a low frequency nature that inevitably results in a backlash. These people are always finding themselves in difficult emotional situations, which they make worse by giving vent to their anger, as well as projecting it onto others. Oh yes. They are unable to take responsibility for their own volatile feelings. Their most common defense is to lash out and then storm away. The dilemma of the tactless nature is that it is deaf to its own lack of tact. These people assume that the problem is always in the other person, which unfortunately earns them no friends and makes it very difficult for others to get close to them. The only kind of person who will remain with such a pattern is the over-attentive nature described above. The secret to breaking this pattern is for the reactive natures to take full responsibility for their emotions instead of remaining stuck in a teenager mentality. Right, so my husband definitely tends to go towards this, the reactive nature. Myself towards the over-attentive. And if you're in a relationship, a partnership, a dynamic, you're probably going to relate more to one and someone else to the other one. And the trick is, both of these people, both of these shadows, we just have to look. And we have to look and we have to take responsibility for where we're either afraid to look or where we're choosing not to look. And in that, looking and exploring that, we can transcend these patterns. So the sixth gift is diplomacy, dropping your defenses. At a heightened frequency, the sixth gift pulls rapidly away the world of conflict and argumentation. This is the gift of diplomacy, the ability to adjust your own behavior to create a harmonious exchange with others. This gift is a byproduct of opening your heart to another person. As you become clearer about your own emotional conditioning, you begin to feel more peaceful. Because this gift is so deeply connected with the pH balance of your physical body, it also has the effect of stabilizing the emotional aura in your environment. In other words, when one is able to see and own their unconscious projections, they actually rupture the collective shadow patterns wherever they go. If one person is not playing the reaction blame game, the other is forced to come to terms with his or her own demons. Yeah, right? People displaying the sixth gift are always attuned to the right timing of how to act and what to say through their strong resonance field of their aura. These people can physically feel into another person's aura. They can do this because it is a specific genetic gift, and also because they are emotionally mature. Emotional maturity means that your own awareness operates even during the most profound emotional states. As you become more and more aware of your emotional patterns, the frequency passing through your emotional system is released and quickened. The gift of diplomacy, is far more than the ability to speak the right words. However, that is a mere surface skill that can be mastered by anyone, even at a low frequency. Oh yes, this is very true. A lot of people can speak it, but don't hold it. True diplomacy is an energetic gift operating through a person's aura. Because the sixth gene key is so embedded within the human sexuality, it is about the penetration of borders and boundaries. Because of the sixth shadow, there's a tremendous friction between the opposite sexes. Both sides are so busy defending their individuality that there's very little real love or connection. But this friction is maintained only as long as each party hangs on to its defenses. As the sixth gift begins to enter into the human relationships, the emotional barriers begin to break down between people. The sixth gift catalyzes the process of dissolving the natural friction between opposites, and in doing so, it allows a far greater exchange of energy between them. This is exactly what the experience of falling in love is. Okay, so Richard will talk a lot about this even in the Venus sequence, which is one of the online courses that he offers in regards to what's called the Golden Path. So the Golden Path, there's 3 online courses. The first one is the activation, the second one is the Venus sequence, and the third one is the Pearl sequence. These courses are fundamental. They are powerful, they are amazing, they are life-changing. And in the Venus sequence specifically, because it works on activating the heart, opening the heart, healing the heart, expanding the heart, all of these things, right? He talks about relationships and connections and partnerships, and that it doesn't take 2 people working hard to make it happen. He speaks about it generally taking one person doing the work, one person operating from this open, and in the case of the 6th gift, diplomacy, right? That it creates the space for the other person to shift almost always, except in extreme cases, right? So this idea of this conflict in relationships having to be this big, drawn out thing, he really challenges. And he's saying, hey, it doesn't have to be this big, drawn out thing. It doesn't have to be both people on this path to self-discovery, to enlightenment, to mastery. No. But it does take somebody who has the willingness to step back outside of the patterns, to see the shadow and to see their role in operating within that shadow and make a different choice. And I will say, through my own personal experience, that for the most part, this is truth. Now, as the one who's doing this deeper emotional, psychological work, I would say on my end, in my own partnership and marriage, I don't always take the higher road. and you likely won't either, because sometimes we get triggered too, or sometimes we get worn down too. And then we can see an old pattern reenact. And this is a trick that we have to be careful, that if an old pattern in a relationship or dynamic is reenacted, it doesn't mean that we're going backwards. It doesn't mean that the work means nothing. It doesn't mean that. It means that we have both entered into the shadow frequency, and we are both co-creating to conflict in response to the both of us being in that shadow frequency. So we just have to recognize it, step back outside, and keep operating from that place that we're working towards, that we operate from the most part, and readjust. He calls this in the Gene Key system pivoting. I believe that would be, it's close enough to pivoting, right? Is changing our behavior, making a shift in how we're operating. Pivoting actually means something different in the Gene Keys, but anyways, it doesn't matter. It's changing the behavior and moving so that the path can shift, right? It can shift back to the path that we were on, so we don't go down the rabbit hole of going exactly where we used to be. So the only way we fall back to where we used to be is if we fall completely into an old pattern and we jump right in and we say, okay, hey, I'm going to live here. Forget everything that I've learned. Forget everything that I've done. I'm just going to live here. And we completely succumb ourselves to that pattern. Then yeah, we can fall backwards. But for the most part, it's a little slip. It's not even a mistake, because there's learning that happens in there. We just adjust. There we go, adjust. That's the word. We adjust. And we come back on a path. The relationship will mend. It will repair. And we can keep going. So the 6th city is peace. The 6th city of peace is one of the truly great cities. It is the underlying nature of all the cities. In point of fact, it is the underlying nature of form itself once its true essence has been realized as unconscious. So many great teachers have spoken of the peace of the 6th city. When Jesus stated that the kingdom of heaven has already arrived, but that people simply cannot see it, he was talking about this city. Peace is an auric emanation that surrounds anyone in a Siddhic state. In this Siddhic state, the awareness within your being separates from your emotional nature. It rises up and floats upon the vibrations of your emotional longing. This is a spontaneous process that cannot be caused by anything within your individuality, since it is that very individuality that has to die. The underlying emotional energy that was previously experienced as longing is now experienced as peace. The ultimate defense is emptiness. This is the essence of the wisdom taught by the great sages. The sixth Siddhi is the original and future state of humanity. From its stems are myths and memories of paradise and our intuitions and highest hopes of the future. When this state dawns inside of you, your body begins to mutate. In a sense, it is trying to build a better vehicle to house this intense new frequency. But the raw materials are not fully present yet. Humankind is still evolving the new energetic circulatory system that can carry these frequencies. This is why so many great sages suddenly become diseased. In particular, they can experience problems and imbalances within the body's pH. These things occur because the body is trying to catch up to its future state. Regardless of what is experienced physically, the sense of utter peace does not even flicker. In certain rare cases, the elements of the future body are available through your genetics, and the process of building the future body can and does continue. Okay, so the Siddhi is peace, right? And he's talking about the future of humanity living and operating in this place of peace. But at the current time, our physical bodies, and he even says our pH levels, cannot handle or hold the frequencies of this higher Siddhic state to become a reality in our world. So there'll have to be this evolution of sorts. And this is where humanity has to realize, and especially these new age, new earth people who, are really fixated on this becoming a reality right away. We have to realize there's a shift happening, and the shift isn't instantaneous. It isn't even years. It's more. So one of the things that I always say and teach is, if we can think bigger and begin to see the change in our children, in our grandchildren, in the future generations, to really understand that our job is this inner world. This is where we're at. This is where humanity is at right now, is shape-shifting and understanding our own inner world, and not focusing so much that it's our job to make this heaven on earth on the outside right now, because it would be false. If we were to create a utopia society, even the ones that are forming right now, there's like pockets all over the globe of people who think they've hit this new earth reality, these Siddhic states, and for the most part they haven't at all. And they're merely mimicking a frequency, but they don't actually hold the frequency. So yeah, that's another story. But realizing for the individual, start on the self, let it merge out into your community, and it will continue to ripple out and out and out and out, and eventually humanity will be shifted. It will shift, but it's going to be a process, and we don't have to become attached to making that happen or occur. And if we are attached to making that happen or occur, that's fear. That is definitely the shadow programs operating inside of us. So we want to look at those shadows, right? The shadow of conflict. Where's conflict inside of you? Where's conflict inside of me, right? Where are the patterns inside of us that tell us we're not safe, or we're not on track, or we're not good enough, or, then where do we project that outwards and say, hey, that person, this person, that, whatever, right? So yeah, this is an interesting gene key, the 6th gene key. So just to reiterate, the shadow of the 6th gene key is conflict, the gift is diplomacy, and the Siddhi is peace. So the path to peace. Really, the gift, diplomacy, this is what we're aiming for. But we can't deny the conflict. We can't sidestep the conflict. We have to look at it dead in the eye. We have to say, I see it inside of myself. I see how I participate. I see how I create it. I see. And when a conflict does arise, right, the type of ownership that I feel is important to take is the ownership of understanding that you're a co-creator in the conflict, right? Your job isn't to fix every conflict. It really isn't. You can ask for your guidance. What is the right thing to do? You don't have to fix every conflict. You don't have to explain your way through every conflict. You don't. Because sometimes that is a trap. There are people out there who completely manipulate. They manipulate everything so that they appear to win a conflict. They will try to engage you in conflict, showing you this or showing you that. You don't have to engage. You don't have to play. And know that that's okay. It's okay not to engage. It's okay not to refute. It's absolutely okay not to dance in the conflict field. You can remove yourself, and that is okay. So those are my closing words of the 6th gene key. Please get the book, The Gene Keys Embracing Your Higher Purpose. It has all the information on all 64 gene keys. It has an amazing glossary that explains all the different terms used within the gene key system. And check out Richard's work at www.genekeys.com. And yeah, that's everything. I hope you have a wonderful day or evening. And yeah, it's 5:55 as I'm recording. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of the Gene Keys Exploration. If you would like to purchase the Gene Key Record Keeper, please go to www.genekeyrecordkeeper.com, or you can go to Amazon and search Gene Key Record Keeper, and you can purchase your very own copy of a sacred companion tool as you learn, track, and move through your gene keys. Have the most beautiful day, and we'll look forward to connecting with you in the next episode. Bye-bye.